This conference will now be recorded.
All right, so let's get started for this evening. Introduce myself here real quick. My name is Tony Vertle with Tobacco Community Credit Union. I am on our community outreach and education team. We go out into different workplaces in the community and work with nonprofits and schools and universities and offer different education pieces, different financial education pieces, and they'll also help people gain that financial worthiness that they're looking for. So if you want, Pete, if you wanted to give a few words here real quick on yourself before we get started.
Yeah, hey guys, Pete, for those of you who have not been here before, Pete Spinoso, at Tobacco with Tony in the outreach department. Excited to kind of talk to you guys again tonight. Got some good information for you. A lot of positive stuff here, and yeah, like I said, just excited to talk, and should be a good one tonight. So enjoy.
Awesome. Thanks, Pete. Yeah, so I'm going to give it back to him in just a few minutes. I did want to just kind of go over some housekeeping things here. We do have 3 webinars for this little webinar series left. So the one you're viewing tonight, are you ready to buy a home? And then we do have 2 additional coming up here the following Thursdays. The first one is going next Thursday will be Car Shopping 101. So that is going to have some similar details tonight, but definitely dive a little bit more into the car purchasing process. And then we are going to wrap up the series with preparing for the future. So, this series has kind of played off of each other as we've gone along. We started with that great foundation of budgeting and savings, then kind of worked into what your credit score is made up of. And then we're really starting to get into some more, in-depth things here of, we were talking last week about trying to take control of your debt. And now we're talking about home ownership, car shopping, and then the future. So they kind of all work off of each other, and hopefully we can get to that finale part of you looking forward to the future and hopefully getting to that point of retirement at some point. So with that being said, I'm going to kind of give the presentation over to Pete here. He is going to go through some great tips and tricks when you're looking into purchasing maybe your first home or you haven't looked at homes in a while. He's going to go over some details here for you. So this is out on our website. If you go to learn and then master your money, and then you can go to home ownership is kind of what we're discussing. So if you guys do want to follow along, that is on our website to follow along with. Otherwise, at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Pete.
Thanks, Tony. Perfect. So the 9 steps of home ownership. So we're going to kind of take some time to go through this stuff here. Going to keep it pretty basic for the most part. Like we've told you guys before, any questions, any comments, anything like that comes up, please feel free to chat. Again, anything, we'll let you know about it too before we end here, but also too, if you're looking to get in touch with us after this, connect@depaco.com. So we'd love to chat with you. If you have anything personal you want to discuss, that way it's not in the community chat that we have going on. Love to follow up with you and kind of love to see what we can help you out with. So right off the bat, probably I would say the most important step. So we need to make sure that we're reviewing our finances to make sure that we are in a comfortable position and we're setting ourselves up for success with this here. So we go down here a little bit and there are 3 kind of bullets. So the second and third bullet, the strengthen your credit and analyze your current expenses and budget. Those are kind of what we had talked about in the last couple sessions. So now that we have a savings account established, an emergency fund, we have our budget worksheet filled out. So we know our monthly income versus our expenses. And then also too, on top of that, we have the credit score looking where it needs to be. So those are kind of, like I said, preparation work we did last time and the time before that, just to kind of get you guys set up with these things here. So we're reviewing our finances and we have those things taken care of. We've gone through the to figure those things out with, okay? So now we're kind of going to be looking to continue this process. We're getting a little bit more serious now. So saving for a down payment. Okay. So the down payment is basically your home's purchase price that you're going to be paying up front when you go to close the loan. Okay. So, you know, a lot of different questions we hear about this, a lot of different concerns. So we're going to try and tackle some of this information here, best of our ability to kind of help you guys out with this process here. So again, with the budget figured out, and even though we don't have an idea of a down payment, it's going to fluctuate. So again, this is going to be determined, how much your down payment is determined by how much house you're going to look at buying or how much you're going to be borrowing. The down payment also too is going to be influenced typically by the kind of program or the type of loan that you might be doing as well. So there's kind of some different factors in when we're trying to determine this stuff. Typically the range of down payments that you're going to see, if you kind of look into the second paragraph there, is anywhere from 3% to 20%. So a lot of the times I have people ask me, like, hey Pete, I'm really kind of interested in this. I was told that I need, 50% down. I always hear a lot of big numbers and a lot of misconceptions about how much you have. And I kind of fell victim to this too. I'd been in my first home now for about a year. And, a lot of information that I didn't have about this process. So I was kind of getting in my own head about, I don't know how I'm ever going to be able to save up for a down payment. It kind of prevented me from getting serious about looking for a home. But after, I contacted a couple people at Tobacco in our real estate department, I kind of did some research online. It was made apparent to me that, again, the range we're looking at can be anywhere from 3 to 20%, again, depending on what type of home and how much we're financing. One of the questions that I get asked, and one of the things that's been brought up multiple times too, as well as what's all included in your payment. And I know Tony's going to talk a little bit about that later on. A lot of people think it's just the straight up the payment. You're just paying your house payment, but there are some other things that are added as well. When we're putting 20% down for down payment, that helps us avoid paying PMI, or what we call private mortgage insurance. So that is one of those extra variables that is factored into the final payment of the home. So if you are able to put down that large of a down payment of 20% plus, that's great. Other situations, a lot of the time that's kind of unrealistic to think that you'd have that much money, especially when we're talking, $150,000, $200,000, $250,000 home. We're looking at a pretty sizable down payment. So there, again, a lot of different factors that are going to contribute into those things here. So important to keep in mind down payment, how much or how we need to save. I know we talked about in our kind of budgeting and savings portion, we want to try and keep at least 3 months worth of expenses. Even though the household income and your debts may stay relatively stable, never knowing what could happen with owning a home. There's a lot of unexpected and unplanned things. So again, on top of just having that emergency account, we have to make sure that we are, thinking about a down payment as well. And, the more information, the further you get in that process, the more you're kind of going to determine what that number is going to be. Okay. So now that we have the finances reviewed, we have the down payment taken care of, we've determined, what size home or how much we're going to spend. The pre-approval is what comes next. And this is an exciting step here because this is really taking it to the next tier of how serious we are with going through that purchase. One thing that I learned, very important to go ahead and get pre-approved earlier on in the process. Me and my fiance, we made the mistake and we thought we were ready to buy a home and we were actively looking online and, a lot of things popping up and we had a couple of really nice homes we were interested in. We called to get a walkthrough of the home, liked what we saw. we wanted to make an offer, and they asked us, if we were approved. And me and my fiance kind of looked at each other like, well, we didn't know we wanted to get the house yet. We thought we would do that and then get pre-approved. No, 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 we were completely wrong there. So you definitely, before you start getting serious with homing down on specific homes that you're really liking, you want to go through that process of getting pre-approved first. Basically, what happened in our situation was that house that we really liked, we couldn't get in to get pre-approved within a couple of weeks. So by then, the house had sold within a couple of days. So we really made that mistake. And you kind of live and learn, and that's why I enjoy being able to kind of share my experiences with people, to kind of let them know of the kind of steps you should take prior to doing these things and what order they should be done in. So if you're serious, definitely at this point you have your down payment, the finances are in order. You want to get in touch with whoever you're financing with to get the pre-approval process started. Basically, they're going to take, how much money you're making in the household versus your existing debts. They're going to check out the credit. And then from that point on, they're going to let you know if you're either approved or denied. And then if you're approved, how much you're approved for. And then you can really kind of go to step 4, and you can start to really get specific with the homes that you're kind of looking at. So this is kind of eye-opening to me, but I'm not that surprised just with like how important and how implemented technology is in this day and age. 80% of home searches begin on the internet. A lot of great sites, a lot of good information, great access to being able to search multiple areas. This is a great way too, if you're thinking about possibly moving out of town or moving somewhere different that you're not familiar with. So it's a good idea to kind of hop on the internet, do some research. You can get aerial pictures, you can see all that information. We have some bullets here, and obviously these are kind of going to depend on your specific situation and what you're kind of trying to do, or your plans that you have here. But these are obviously some things that you're going to want to take into consideration when purchasing a house, because again, you're not just buying the house, you're investing in the area around you. And you have to think about, traffic, neighbors, commute's a big thing. With us living in the Midwest, we get all the seasons. So we have, solid, I'd say probably more than half the year, we have some cold, kind of crappy weather that, we have to be prepared. We have to make sure the vehicle's up and running and it's legitimate to get us through those conditions. So, definitely the commute is something, we took into consideration. Quality of school district, if you have kids, maybe you went to a certain elementary, certain junior high, certain high school, and you want to kind of maybe, so to speak, carry that tradition on with your kids. So maybe that factor is extremely important to you. Are there nice things to do around your home? Do you have in walking distance like a nice park, or maybe like trails, or maybe you're looking to live downtown, so you're kind of close to that nightlife atmosphere with dining and just different things going on. So obviously how much work has to be done with the home too. That kind of determines the stages you're at. Are you a first-time home buyer? You're probably going to be looking for something that might need a little bit more love and care, a little bit more fixing up right at those beginning, few years that you're there. Or maybe you're kind of past that stage and you are looking to sell your first home, or maybe your second, get into your third. Maybe at that point you're looking for something that, doesn't need a lot of work. You're just ready to kind of move in and, live your life and not have to stress about those different things. So, a lot of different things to kind of keep in mind and to consider when we're kind of doing this process and narrowing down, what we like, what we're interested in. So again, it's kind of weird. You think when you're buying a home, you're just, I'm just worried about the house, but there's a lot of other elements and variables that go into that. Okay. So let's say we find the house that we like. We're sold. We found the dream home. I want it. A significant other wants it. It looks great. Now we need to submit an offer. Okay. So before we do this, obviously we talked about, don't do what I did and make the mistake of not getting pre-approved first, because if you put an offer in and then you have to, run to go find some financing from somewhere, and you just don't have your ducks in a row, and you find out, hey, you're not approved. Well, now you got to go back and say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have those funds. I wasn't approved from a financial, so I cannot continue with this process. So, it's a good idea too, when you're thinking about doing an offer, again, research, especially with these major transactions, buying new homes, buying new cars. You have to make sure that you're doing your research. Great idea to compare properties around the area. You can do this. I know you can go online and you can do like home assessors. I believe Beacon's a free site. You can go out there and you can check values of homes, the specific home you're looking about purchasing, and also ones that are kind of surrounding in that area, in that neighborhood. What did they sell at? What was it when they got it? Closing costs. Those are all different things that kind of come up a little bit further in the process. But it's important to be asking these questions, and again, kind of doing your research and double checking. And always too, what me and Tony stress is the communication. This is a major deal, first time purchase, or even two, if you're selling and moving or upgrading. Don't be afraid to ask for help, ask for questions, because these are things that, us average consumers, we're not doing every day. So when these things happen, they're kind of a little bit different. They're a little bit out of our comfort zone. So again, don't ever be afraid to ask, okay? So they've submitted the offer. Now it's time to go through and make sure everything is safety regulated, up to date. You have a certain amount of kind of inspections that you have to do. I know you have to do like radon. If you're particular, you might want to have like a pest guy go through there, but an overall home inspector, typically there's a lot of them out there. Google search, read the reviews. The realtor that we worked with, she had a couple people that she suggested to us, which was nice. It kind of helped the process because there are so many out there. So don't be afraid to ask, family, friends, hey, do you guys, suggest anyone for your home inspection or for any tests that you did? Did anyone work well? Anyone I should stay away from? So yeah, you got to make sure we're doing those accurately. And, when you're doing that inspection, I would encourage you to be there for those things. Taking notes, trying to inspect as much as you can while that person is there doing the job as well. It's just going to kind of help out later on once you're already in the home, and hopefully there's not any surprises, anything like that that you might come across, and those can all be addressed during that inspection, those initial processes like that.
Pete, if I could add one thing in there for home inspections.
Please.
I will say with our purchase of our home, our inspector did a good job, but another thing to consider too is that's one person's opinion on what your home is, and you're purchasing something that could potentially be somewhere you're going to live the rest of your life. And it's probably the biggest purchase most people will make in their life is their home. So it doesn't hurt to get a second opinion on that. Yes, it's going to be money out of pocket, but I would recommend that. Or if you do plan on doing any sort of renovations in your home, is to get a contractor in there to maybe inspect the home as well. They might have different views than the home inspector, and then you can also get kind of an idea of what those costs are going to be to renovate the home before you jump into that. So that's something personally, we're going to do renovations, and I wish we would have had a contractor come in beforehand to look at the home. But just a few more things to think of with that home inspection.
And I'm glad you chimed in, Tony. That is a great point. I mean, it all comes back to the research, taking your time through this process. Like Tony said, it's probably going to be the biggest purchase of your life. You might be looking to live there for 10, 20 years. Maybe you're going to sell it in a few years. But again, I mean, I haven't met too many people that, have just gone out, to like a car dealership and they're like, oh, I'm just going to buy the first car I see. Or, when I was younger, trying to determine which college I wanted to go to. It wasn't like I just went with the first one I saw. I had to take some time. I took a step back, do that research. So that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up, because I would have looked over that. So thank you with So let's say everything goes smooth. We got the inspection taken care of, no surprises, no holes in the attic, no, anything that we don't want there. Everything looks good. Now, times for the commitment or your agreement. So this is where you are going to go over kind of the fine print, so the agreements, the conditions that are required. So for instance, we had an agreement with the seller that they would pay for American Home Shield. So it was a home warranty. They agreed when we purchased the home for the price that they would pay a year for that home warranty protection. So it covered a lot of our appliances, any plumbing, anything like that. So this is time where you can kind of add those stipulations and you can kind of talk over, you're going to go over obviously what kind of loan you're doing, the term, when I say term, how long you're going to finance, what the interest rates are, all those really pertinent details and all that fun stuff, all those things that no one really wants to go through, but it's a great thing to kind of feel you're getting very close to the end of the process. This is a great time to ask questions if anything isn't making sense. When I did my home closing, I was at Topeka where I financed the home. I worked with someone in real estate. They're really great about answering any questions I had. They were going through stuff, didn't make sense. I asked them to kind of go back through that stuff just again, because it's such a big commitment and it's such a big deal. So exciting time. So we have all of that stuff figured out.
I don't know which one. I know my phone number. I ain't too looking at something.
Perfect. So now we're going to the final walkthrough. Okay. So again, we're going to walk through one last time. You're going to check over everything, maybe again, hope to, if we do notice anything that maybe needs to be addressed before closing, we can get those things resolved, get those things taken care of, and they can be addressed at that time. And we can kind of go on from there to the final step, closing. Be prepared to sign a lot of paperwork. It was a lot, it wasn't too bad. Like I said, it really helped where we got to finance at Topeka. They took a really good amount of time to explain those things. Like I said, don't be afraid to ask questions. Once everything has been closed, then you get the keys. You get to start moving in after, again, you've determined prior to this, the move-in date, when the people are going to be out by, and that's it. And it seems like a long journey, but it flies, and it's a lot of information to take in. But this is a really cool guide. Like Tony said, this is on our website. It's pretty easy to find. If you are kind of like, I just don't even know where to start, this is a really great outline just to kind of get you a little bit motivated and making sure that you have a lot of those things that are going to help you out, make this process easier, taken care of at an early part of this stage, so you can go through there. So that is kind of the process in that sense.
Yeah, thank you, Pete. That's a ton of great information. I loved your personal stories as well. I think that makes it real for all of us to be able to hear what you went through. I will say, I agree with everything that you said along the process. You just really to take your time, take each of these individual steps, soak things in. This is the biggest purchase you'll make, like we mentioned a few times. So it's important to take each step and run with it. So one thing we do offer, if you guys did miss our budgeting and savings webinar that we did earlier this month, or I guess that was in September, there's a budget worksheet that we have out here. I would highly recommend doing this before you think about purchasing a home. This will help you start saving for a home, and then you'll be able to have kind of worked out what you want, what you can afford. So that kind of goes into, I do have a few questions here. I'm going to flip the screen back to myself so you can see me. Few questions that have came up here. I got some private questions, private chat questions, and then a few things that I just kind of wanted to add from going through the conversation. First thing is, how much can I afford? People want to know where can I look price range? And to answer that question, I think what Pete was talking about, he hammered home a few times. It's really important to make sure that you get that pre-approval. It starts with budgeting. making sure that you have that out there. That should kind of give you an idea of what payment you can afford. But when you really sit down and talk to a lending expert, they're going to be able to kind of tell you what you can afford month to month. Now, I will say at DePaco, we're pretty good about not trying to max you out on your payment, but I would advise you, if you are going through another financial institution, they may give you the max that you can afford based on the numbers that you provide for your income and your expenses that you have every month. I would really look that over and make sure that it fits within your budget. We see so many people run into a mortgage payment that is too much really for them. And then, you know, you're kind of housebound at that point. You can't really go on the vacations that you want to go on. You might not be able to purchase that car that you wanted. Holiday season might not be what you wanted it to be. So it's really important. We call that house poor in the financial world, and you don't want to get to that point. So maybe you can afford a $250,000 house on paper, and you can find some beautiful homes in your area, probably in that price range. But maybe it makes more sense to scale that back to 150 to 200,000, and maybe put a little sweat equity into something for your first home. So how much can I afford is a loaded question. You really need to figure that out on your own and work with a lending consultant to get those numbers and figure out what makes the most sense for you. I did have a question come in, what credit score is needed? That's a great question. That is going to depend once again on your lender. Really, both of those questions revolve around getting pre-approved. I know DePaco does have a great product called BrightTrack. So if you are a member, you can kind of see an idea of where your score is. That does tie into our credit score webinar, which is, both of those are out on YouTube. So you can go out and watch those if you'd like through DePaco. But I would recommend kind of, you know, making sure your score is where it needs to be well in advance of looking at purchasing a home. That way, if there is anything out there that you do need to work on, you'll be able to work on that in plenty of time to purchase the home. So had a question here, what is escrow? So when you're going to purchase a home, you're going to have the couple things that go into your monthly payment. It's going to be your principal payment, so that's how much is actually going to pay down on your home every month. And then you have your interest, which is what you're paying the financial institution to have that money borrowed to you. And then there's an amount that's escrowed every month. So that's typically in a separate savings account. It is built right into your monthly payment, and that's going to cover your property taxes and your insurance. So it is great to get that escrow amount if you are doing your first mortgage, and then you have one bundled payment for all three of those things. So it includes your mortgage payment, your insurance payment, and your property taxes all together lumped into one payment. So it's a great thing to do if you can. And then how do you qualify for a mortgage? So if you are getting set up with someone to look at making an appointment for you know, a mortgage, I would recommend trying to get 2 years of your tax returns, and then 2 to 3 months of your statements from your employer, so recent pay stubs, and then to make sure that you have a good hold on what all your debts are out there, and maybe you need to explain what if you know, if you have some high credit card debt, kind of have an explanation of how that got there. And then also have a good hold on what you want for a down payment. So those are all things that you kind of want to have ahead of time, and then you can set up that meeting to kind of figure out what you can qualify for. With that being said, we do offer what's called a mortgage makeover at DePaco. If you are a member or non-member, we do offer this. So the mortgage makeover is really detailed for you individually in the process of where you're at and what you need to do to get into that home that you want to be in. So that's prior to you going and applying for that mortgage. It might lead up to that. We might say, hey, that's perfect. You're ready to go. You can apply for that mortgage. Otherwise, we might have some great tips and tricks for you to get to that point of home ownership. So that's everything we have for you guys this evening. We do love questions, so we're going to sit on here with you guys for maybe another couple minutes and make sure there's no other questions that you guys do have. We do have the connect@depaco.com. That is right here in our chat function, so you guys can reach out to us via email if you'd like, at that connect@depaco.com. This will be out on YouTube if you'd like to watch it again. And we will also be sending you a follow-up email if you guys, it'll be a personalized email that you should get either tomorrow or Monday from us as well, and you can chat back and forth through that as well. So thank you everyone for attending tonight, and hopefully we'll see you again next week for car shopping. The Bears losing yet, Pete?
Oh shit, I don't want to look. But also too, one thing I was